What if stupidity has nothing to do with intelligence? What if some of the most educated, articulate, and well-meaning people in history became agents of destruction not because they were evil, but because they stopped thinking? Throughout history, there have been moments when entire societies seemed to surrender moral judgment. Advanced societies, filled with doctors, engineers, philosophers, and teachers, participated in actions that, in hindsight, are unthinkable. Yet, this was not due to ignorance. These people were informed, educated, capable. The terrifying factor was something else entirely. Stupidity itself had become a moral force. This video is not about mocking people. It is about understanding a psychological and social danger that still affects all of us today. In a world overflowing with information, algorithms, and endless social reinforcement, this danger is more relevant than ever. It's easy to assume that intelligence or education protects us from making harmful decisions. But history repeatedly disproves this. Some of the most rational, thoughtful, and educated people have willingly participated in destructive systems. They are not evil, they are not ignorant. They simply stop thinking critically. When social systems reward conformity and punish independent thought, even intelligent individuals begin repeating slogans, ignoring facts, and following orders unquestioningly. The paradox is striking: the smarter someone is, the more dangerous their conformity can become. Intelligence without responsibility, or without reflection, is not protection, it can be a tool for harm. The central lesson is chilling: stupidity is not a lack of knowledge, it is a refusal to think. Most people assume stupidity and ignorance are the same thing. They are not. Ignorance can be corrected. Give someone new information, show them the facts, and their understanding can change. Stupidity cannot. Why? Because stupidity is a psychological state, a resistance to independent thought. A stupid person repeats slogans without questioning, reacts emotionally to challenges, feels threatened by nuance, believes certainty is morally superior to inquiry. Arguing with someone like this is not about exchanging ideas. It's about confronting a deeply ingrained mental posture. This is why societies often fail morally, not because people are uninformed, but because they stop thinking responsibly. Modern neuroscience confirms this pattern. Humans are social creatures. Our brains are wired for belonging. When we align with a group, social approval activates reward centers in the brain. Dopamine is released. Rejection triggers the same pain circuits as physical injury. Independent thinking can feel painful. Conformity feels safe. Studies show that under social pressure, people override their own perceptions. Moral judgment weakens. Critical thinking decreases. This is not a flaw of intelligence. It is a feature of the human brain. In other words, stupidity isn't about how smart someone is. It's about how susceptible someone is to surrendering thought to authority or social pressure. History shows this pattern again and again. Educated people supporting destructive systems, rational thinkers defending irrational policies. Why? Once identity is tied to belief, doubt feels like betrayal. Questioning feels dangerous. Thinking independently feels threatening. People stop evaluating ideas critically because their social, professional, or personal identity depends on obedience. When systems reward obedience and punish reflection, stupidity spreads from the top down. This is the mechanism behind mass moral failures in advanced societies. It is not a problem of the masses. It is a structural and psychological phenomenon. Today, we do not need authoritarian states to propagate stupidity. Social media accomplishes this at a massive scale. Platforms reward outrage, certainty, and simplicity. Nuance, doubt, and complexity are punished, ignored, downvoted, or ridiculed. Algorithms amplify content that triggers strong emotional reactions rather than content that encourages careful thought. Echo chambers reinforce this. People automatically reject opposing views. Disagreement is associated with danger. Popularity is confused with correctness. The result is confident, loud, but fragile minds. People feel certain, yet cannot withstand nuanced discussion. They know less but believe more. Even without authoritarian coercion, societies can fall into moral collapse simply through algorithmic reinforcement of conformity and emotional reaction. Artificial intelligence and the age of information create new risks. Information is now infinite. Verification is exhausting. Critical thinking feels optional. Trust shifts from judgment to convenience. In this environment, stupidity flourishes, not because people are ignorant, but because they are overwhelmed. Cognitive overload makes independent thought psychologically costly. It is easier to surrender judgment than to weigh hundreds of competing claims, sources, and perspectives. Algorithms and AI-generated content can magnify this problem by presenting facts and falsehoods side by side without distinction, rewarding emotionally charged content over accurate content, reducing our patience for complexity. The danger is subtle. You are not fooled because you are stupid, you are fooled because it is easier not to think at all. Despite these challenges, resistance is possible, but it is rarely easy. Thinking independently is a moral act. It requires willingness to stand alone, comfort with uncertainty, emotional resilience, practical steps for modern life. Actively engage with opposing views, even if uncomfortable. Pause before reacting emotionally. Separate identity from opinion. Practice intellectual humility. Learn to tolerate complexity. Critical thinking is not a skill, it is a discipline. And discipline requires effort, courage, and self-awareness. Even a single individual who refuses to surrender judgment can slow the spread of destructive conformity. This is not a pessimistic message. It is an ethical call. Choosing to think is not just about intelligence, it is about responsibility. In a world where it is easier than ever to repeat, react, and conform, thinking becomes a radical act. Once we surrender that responsibility, intelligence is powerless. Knowledge alone cannot protect us. Against unthinking conformity, we truly are defenseless. So the question remains, are you willing to take responsibility for your own thought? If this video makes you uncomfortable, that's a good sign. Ask yourself, what belief or assumption am I willing to question this week? If you value deep thinking, reflection, and intellectual independence, share this message. Engage in conversation. Challenge conformity. Stand by your thought. Because in the end, thinking is not just optional, it is a moral responsibility.